What if I told you that the silence you've been living in isn't a dead end? It's the beginning of something sacred. What if everything you thought was delayed, denied, or forgotten is actually being orchestrated right now behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see? In the next few minutes, you're not just going to hear a story, you're going to feel one. One that mirrors your own ache, your own questions, your own quiet hopes. Because today, God isn't just speaking, He's moving. And what He's about to prove might change how you see everything. Stay with me. This is the moment you've been waiting for. What if I told you that the reason your life feels stuck, like you're endlessly circling a mountain, seeing the same scenery year after year, is because you missed something? Not because you failed, not because you weren't faithful enough, but because God has been whispering and you didn't recognize His voice. Pause for a moment. Let that settle in. There are moments in life when everything feels quiet, eerily quiet. You've prayed, fasted, waited, cried, and still the skies above seem sealed. But here's the mystery most people miss: God often whispers right before the shift. The silence isn't a sign of His absence, it's the sound of divine rearrangement. And that stillness you're standing in right now, it may just be the prelude to the greatest move of God you've ever witnessed. You see, God doesn't always announce His plans with thunder and fire. Sometimes He steps into the scene of your life so quietly, so gently, that only those who have trained their hearts to listen can hear the soft rustle of destiny approaching. It's like the first hint of dawn breaking after a long night, not loud but certain. Right now, even as you listen to this, there are things shifting in the spiritual realm that your senses can't perceive yet. Doors are creaking open. People you haven't met yet are preparing to say your name in rooms you've never entered. You think nothing's happening, but heaven has already issued the command, it's time. What looks still is actually sacred ground. God is moving, but He doesn't want you to miss it. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed the nudges lately? The recurring thought you can't shake, that unexpected idea that keeps showing up in your dreams or during your quiet moments. The moment you feel a deep, inexplicable urge to take a different route home, call someone you haven't spoken to in years, or revisit a dream you thought was long dead. Those aren't coincidences. They're spiritual breadcrumbs. God's gentle way of saying, pay attention. I'm about to prove something to you. We often ask for clarity with a loud voice, but God answers with a quiet shift. That shift may not look like a miracle at first. It may look like a delay, a change of plans, a loss, a closed door. But every detour God allows is a hidden shortcut in disguise. His whispers are not meant to confuse you, they're invitations into deeper trust. He speaks in patterns, subtle repetition, gentle discomfort that lingers until you move. That thing in your spirit you can't quite name, it's not restlessness, it's preparation. Heaven is organizing your breakthrough, but it requires your cooperation. This is not the season to be loud. It's the season to be still and listen. Listening isn't passive, it's a spiritual posture. It's active awareness. It's saying to God, even if I don't see the next step, I will keep my heart tuned to your frequency. And that tuning happens not in the rush, but in the rest. There's a sacred power in quiet. Moses heard God not in the earthquake or the fire, but in the still small voice. David received his crown while hiding in caves. Jesus began his ministry only after 40 days of silence in the wilderness. The pattern is clear. God proves His power after the quiet, not during the noise. And if you're in a quiet place now, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, you are not being punished. You are being positioned. But here's where many miss it. We become so addicted to activity, to visible results, that when God begins to move under the surface, we mistake His movement for nothingness. We call delay what God calls preparation. We call silence what He calls sacred whisper. And if we're not careful, we will curse the very season God is using to bless us. So what does listening to God's whisper look like in everyday life? It looks like leaving margin in your day for stillness, turning off the noise, not reaching for your phone the moment discomfort hits, listening to what your heart is saying underneath the clutter. It looks like journaling the recurring ideas, reflecting on the patterns in your life, praying with questions instead of just answers. It looks like creating space in your routine for sacred pause. It also looks like obedience in small things. Obedience is how we respond to the whisper. When you feel a nudge to reach out, do it. When you sense a pull to stop striving, honor it. When an old dream resurfaces with unexpected clarity, don't dismiss it. God's whispers often come before he proves himself. And when he proves himself, it won't be with a whisper. It will be with a shift so clear, so undeniable, that even those who doubted you will have to say, that had to be God. But he doesn't shout first, he whispers. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment you walk into a room and feel like something is about to change, even though nothing looks different. That moment when your spirit feels light for no reason. That moment when something you read feels tailor-made for you. These aren't accidents. These are holy hints. He's preparing to prove it to you. And let me tell you, when God proves something, he doesn't just make it obvious. He makes it undeniable. He doesn't just restore, he multiplies. He doesn't just answer your prayer. He answers it in a way that humbles you and lifts you simultaneously. But he needs your cooperation. He needs you to listen, to slow down, to stop trying to make it happen and start noticing what's already happening around you. So here's your challenge right now. Go on a whisper walk this week. Just 15 minutes of walking without headphones, no music, no calls. Just you, your breath, and the open sky. Ask God one question. What are you saying to me? Then listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole being. Don't rush the answer. Watch for the pattern. The whisper doesn't come with fireworks, it comes with a gentle knowing. And after that, do a whisper journal entry. Write down everything that surfaces, the strange ideas, the memories, the people who come to mind. That list might look ordinary now, but in a few weeks it may prove to be the map to your next breakthrough. Because God is not just talking, he's orchestrating. And he's about to prove it to you in a way that silences every doubt, heals old disappointment, and leaves you standing in awe. But before he does, he whispers, are you listening? Now here's a question for you. Don't overthink it, just respond from your heart. Leave your answer in the comments below. Which moment most clearly reveals God is about to move in your life? A, when everything goes quiet and you feel uneasy but curious. B, when opportunities suddenly appear after a long season of silence. Comment your answer below with either A or B. I'd love to see how many of you are recognizing the whisper before the shift. There are moments in life that don't feel like holy turning points, they feel like endings. You're standing in the hallway of disappointment, staring at a door that slammed shut so hard it echoed for years. You've told yourself the story 1,000 times it wasn't meant to be. You laid the dream down, buried the desire, and moved on, or at least you thought you did. But here's the truth that no one tells you: God remembers the doors you gave up on. And sometimes in the quiet moments of your surrender, he starts unlocking them again. This is not about going back to the past. It's about how God revisits what we thought was over dreams. We boxed up prayers. We forgot we even prayed visions that once burned so bright but slowly flickered out. He doesn't do this to torment us or tease us, but to restore us. To prove that his no back then wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the right chapter, just at the wrong time. Let me tell you a story. Sarah lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was a teacher gifted with compassion and patience, and she carried a calling to help troubled teens. But 5 years ago, she applied for a position with a youth advocacy nonprofit, a job she believed was her breakthrough. She was confident, prepared, and deeply prayerful. When the rejection email came, it shattered something inside her. She didn't just lose a job offer, she lost belief in her discernment. She told herself she must have misunderstood God. So she moved on, stayed in the classroom, kept showing up. Her impact was still real, but that old desire, the one she buried under thick layers of maybe nots, lingered. It showed up sometimes in dreams, sometimes in songs, sometimes when she spoke to a student who reminded her why she wanted more in the first place. But she never said it out loud, not even to God. That door was closed. Until one Tuesday afternoon when her principal mentioned an unexpected grant that would fund a school-based advocacy program for the exact population Sarah had always wanted to serve. No interview, no application, just an open door that someone handed her the key to, a door she thought was gone. And in that moment, Sarah realized she had never misheard God. She had only misunderstood his timeline. That's the thing about divine doors, they don't always open when we knock. Sometimes God waits until we stop banging altogether because it's in our surrender that he can finally move freely. Not because he wants to test our endurance, but because the version of you who asked might not have been ready to walk through. And the door wasn't just about access, it was about alignment. We think of surrender as giving up, but from God's view, surrender is sacred positioning. It's the act of saying, even if this dream never returns, I trust you. And that kind of trust has gravity. It pulls the right opportunities back into orbit at the perfect time. But we must understand when God reopens a door, it doesn't always look the same. Sometimes the dream returns in a different shape. Sometimes it arrives in an unexpected setting. Sarah didn't get the nonprofit job, but she got the mission, the calling, the impact, in the exact place she had once felt stuck. It's almost as if God was saying, I didn't say no to the vision. I just said yes to a better route. Here's where it gets personal for you. What have you given up on that still lingers in the background of your thoughts? What closed door do you glance at when no one's looking? Maybe it's not a job, but a relationship, a calling, a creative pursuit. Maybe you've convinced yourself it was foolish, that it was all in your head. But God doesn't forget what he whispered to your spirit. If it truly came from him, it's still alive, just dormant. And now, something is shifting. You've been noticing the signs, haven't you? A conversation that randomly reminds you of that old desire. A message that speaks directly to the thing you thought you buried. An invitation you didn't see coming. These aren't coincidences. They are confirmations. But here's the catch. These returning doors require a new level of trust. When a dream comes back around, it's tempting to fear the same outcome. To brace yourself for rejection. To self-sabotage because why would it work this time? But the truth is, you are not the same person who knocked the first time. You've grown, you've suffered, you've learned, and most of all, your faith has been tested and refined. When God revisits a closed door, he also equips you to walk through it differently. This time you'll enter with humility instead of striving, with peace instead of pressure, with a clearer sense of who you are and why this matters. And this shift will make all the difference, not just in the outcome, but in the experience. This is not about chasing old glories. It's about stepping into new maturity. And sometimes that means accepting that the door may not look grand at all. It may be subtle. It may come disguised as a volunteer opportunity, a side project, a conversation that sparks something again. Don't despise small beginnings. Most divine openings start with a whisper, not a spotlight. And what if instead of pushing you practice curiosity? Curiosity is the secret weapon of those who walk with God. It asks, what if this is something more than it seems? It invites God to show you the bigger picture without demanding instant answers. Curiosity keeps you open, soft, and responsive. It helps you avoid the cynicism that closes off your spirit from new beginnings. So here's a challenge for you. Make a spiritual unfinished list. Write down 3 things you've silently given up on, not with bitterness, but with honesty. Don't overthink it. Just list the things that once stirred your soul, but now collect dust. Then ask God one simple question. If any of this still matters, show me. And then wait. Not with anxiety, but with quiet anticipation. Because the God who planted those desires knows how to awaken them again. But he will not force them on you. He waits for your readiness. He watches your heart more than your hustle. And when the moment is right, the doors will appear not because you fought for them, but because you followed the whisper. Remember, some doors were never meant to be pried open. They were meant to be received. You don't have to prove you deserve them. You just have to walk through them with reverence, recognizing that every step is sacred. This is your moment, not to strive, but to stay sensitive. Not to demand, but to discern. Because what's coming back around now isn't random. It's redemptive. God is about to open what you thought was finished, not to repeat the past, but to redeem it. Get ready. He's about to prove it to you. There's a lie that creeps into our minds with terrifying subtlety. It's quiet, relentless, and deeply cruel. It says you should be further along by now. You hear it in the car on the way home from work, while scrolling through someone else's highlight reel online, or during a family gathering when everyone seems to be doing better faster. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And over time, that whisper turns into a roar, filling every corner of your thoughts with one unrelenting message: you're behind. Sarah, still living in Charlotte and newly entrusted with her advocacy program at the school, felt that lie more intensely than she expected. After the door she once gave up on suddenly opened, instead of celebrating, she found herself spiraling into a strange anxiety. She couldn't stop wondering why now. Why not 5 years ago? What was I doing all this time? She looked back at those quiet years, the days filled with routine, with what felt like spiritual silence. She had stayed faithful, but it didn't feel like progress. It felt like stalling. But here's what she and so many of us miss in those in-between years. They were not wasted. Not a single day was thrown away in God's economy. Because God's timing doesn't run on the clocks we set. His work is not rushed, and most importantly, you are not behind. What if the time you thought you lost was actually the time God used to lay your foundation? What if the silence wasn't a delay but a design? Consider this: the world moves fast, but God moves deep. He's not after surface-level success. He's cultivating soul-level strength. While you were measuring your progress in promotions, milestones, or public applause, He was developing your character in secret, quietly forging endurance, wisdom, compassion, and discernment. You can't microwave maturity. You can't fast-track depth. And God refuses to promote you into places your integrity isn't ready to carry. Those wasted years, they were years of divine gardening. Think of it like a tree in winter. From the outside, it looks dead, lifeless, stagnant. But underground roots are growing deeper. Systems are stabilizing. Strength is being stored. So when spring arrives and the tree finally blooms, it doesn't apologize for the delay. It just shows up in strength, in beauty, in fruitfulness. No one scolds the tree for not blooming in January. We trust the rhythm of nature. So why do we doubt the rhythm of grace? You are not behind. You are blooming right on time. Sarah started to see it. One morning she opened a journal she had written in 3 years prior. And there it was, a prayer she forgot she had penned, asking God for clarity, courage, and compassion to lead vulnerable students. She wept not just because the prayer was now being answered, but because she realized she wasn't behind at all. She had been becoming slowly, silently, but surely. The real danger isn't being behind. The real danger is believing the lie so deeply that you stop showing up, that you stop being present in your own life because you're too busy comparing it to someone else's. The divine path is not a racetrack. It's a tailored road marked just for you. Comparison is a cruel teacher. It rushes you into seasons you're not ready for. It whispers that your pace isn't enough, that your story should match someone else's timeline. But God never wrote your journey with a stopwatch in hand. He wrote it with purpose and patience, with intimate knowledge of your soul, with careful, deliberate steps. When you understand that, you stop measuring your life in speed. You start measuring it in alignment. God doesn't reward hustle. He honors obedience. And sometimes obedience looks like pausing, like staying, like building in hidden places while the world applauds someone else. Let's talk about alignment. Alignment means walking in step with the season you're in, not trying to fast forward, not dragging your feet, just trusting the moment, trusting the path, and moving with God's timing instead of fighting it. There's an unmatched peace that comes when you embrace divine timing. You stop forcing doors open. You stop begging for signs. You stop doubting your worth because it doesn't look like it's working. Instead, you start watching for what's growing in you. You begin to trust the rhythm of your own life, not as random, but as intentional. For Sarah, this showed up in the way she led her new program. She didn't try to prove herself or compete with others who had more experience. She leaned into her lived wisdom, the empathy she gained through delay, the insight from watching others succeed before her, the humility from not being chosen the first time it all came together. And her students felt it. They didn't just receive her expertise, they received her presence. And that changed everything. The past 5 years hadn't been a detour. They had been formation. Here's what I want you to hear today. The dream is still alive. You are still called. And even if you've made mistakes, taken wrong turns, or doubted along the way, you haven't missed it. You're not late. You're being launched. And that launch doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with peace, with internal alignment, with a subtle but powerful shift in your spirit that says, this is the right time, I am the right person, and God is still leading me. Want to do something practical today? Try the spiritual timeline reflection. Take 20 minutes. Write down the last 5 years of your life, year by year, month by month if you can. Then for each season, ask yourself these questions. 1. What did I learn? 2. How did I grow emotionally or spiritually? 3. Where do I now see God's hand, even if I didn't at the time? This exercise won't just help you see progress. It will reveal divine patterns the way God moves in your life. His style, His timing, His faithfulness. It will prove to your own heart that you haven't been standing still. You've been moving, slowly perhaps, but surely. And one day soon, people will ask you, how did it happen so fast? And you'll smile knowing it didn't happen fast. It happened faithfully. It happened exactly when it was meant to. Because God doesn't rush fruit that will last. So don't resent the slow seasons. Don't curse the quiet years. Don't measure your life against someone else's harvest when you're still in the planting season. Because when your bloom comes, and it will be undeniable. Not rushed, not forced, but full, rich, ready, just like you. Which statement feels more true for you right now, A? I'm learning to trust that I haven't missed my moment. B, I still struggle with comparing my timeline to others. Drop your answer in the comments, A or B. Let's grow together. The day Sarah realized her story wasn't just about her was the day everything changed. It was late October in Charlotte. The leaves had turned golden. The air had that sharp crispness that hinted at winter. Sarah had just finished a session with one of her students, a teenage girl who reminded her of herself at that age. Quiet, observant, too mature for her years. The girl had opened up about her struggles at home, how unseen she felt, how she didn't think she mattered. Sarah listened, really listened, and when the girl left something inside, Sarah broke open. She sat at her desk in silence and memories came rushing back. Not of triumphs or milestones, but of her grandmother, Evelyn. Evelyn had raised Sarah for much of her childhood while her parents worked long shifts. Evelyn was quiet, gentle, but firm in faith. Sarah used to hear her whisper prayers every morning at 5 a.m., hands folded, Bible open. She never made a show of it, but she carried a weight in the spirit that Sarah only now understood. It was Evelyn who first told Sarah, God's going to use your life for more than you can see right now. At the time, Sarah had rolled her eyes. She was 13. What did that even mean? Now, nearly 2 decades later, she got it. That whisper Evelyn sent up in those early hours, it was still echoing, still carrying, still moving. Because Sarah's life, her faith, her work, her impact was not born only from her decisions. It was born from generational intercession. It was born from a woman no one applauded, no one interviewed, no one invited on stages, but who prayed faithfully behind closed doors. This is the part of your story you might be overlooking. You are not starting from zero. You are standing on prayers you didn't pray, faith you didn't earn, and tears someone else cried over you when you didn't even know you needed saving. And maybe you don't know their names. Maybe you never met them. But heaven keeps records of generational faith. You are not the beginning, you are a continuation. And you're not just carrying forward dreams for yourself, you're carrying healing purpose and restoration for those who came before and those who will come after. Let that sink in. When you say yes to God, when you forgive, when you choose healing over resentment, when you pursue purpose over fear, you are breaking patterns. You're disrupting generational curses and replacing them with blessings. That matters. The enemy would love to convince you that your faith is private, that your choices are personal. But the truth, every yes to God sends a ripple across generations. Your obedience in this season may be the exact shift your family line has been waiting for. Maybe no one else in your house believes yet. Maybe you're the only one who prays, the only one who's healing, the only one stepping out of dysfunction. But that doesn't make you weak. It makes you a pioneer. Pioneers don't have paths, they make them. And it's lonely work sometimes, heavy work. You might feel like you're carrying something no one around you understands. But don't let that discourage you. Let it affirm that your role is sacred, necessary, honored. Think of Sarah again. After that encounter with her student, she went home and pulled out an old photo album. There was Evelyn smiling in faded tones, holding a much younger Sarah in her arms. She flipped through the pages and wept, not just out of nostalgia, but from realization. Evelyn had planted seeds that were now growing through Sarah. And now Sarah had the opportunity to do the same. So she did something bold. That Sunday, she invited her parents and siblings to dinner. Nothing dramatic, just food and conversation. But during dessert, she gently asked a question. Do you ever think about what Grandma Evelyn prayed for? The table grew quiet. Her mother blinked back tears. Her father nodded slowly. They remembered. And in that small moment, something opened in the atmosphere. Old memories softened. Long-held tension eased. No one got saved that night. No miracles, no declarations. But something shifted because someone was willing to name the thread of faith that had held them all together. That's what happens when one person honors the roots. The roots begin to heal the branches. And here's what's more: the same way you're being shaped by someone else's faith, someone is going to be shaped by yours. A niece who watches how you handle disappointment. A neighbor who notices how you talk about hope. A friend who catches how you pray before big decisions. You don't have to be famous or loud to be impactful. Sometimes the quietest lives leave the loudest legacy. So here's the question: what are you passing on? What will your children, your students, your community remember? Not about what you accomplished, but how you loved, how you trusted, how you showed up in the hard seasons. Because legacy isn't built in one moment. It's built in thousands of small, faithful ones. If you've ever wondered why your journey feels heavy, maybe it's because you're carrying more than you realized. Maybe you're carrying the fulfillment of promises someone else didn't live long enough to see. Maybe you're the one God trusted with the harvest. And that's no small thing. So here's a practice for this week. Write a letter to the person who carried faith before you. It could be a grandparent like Evelyn, a parent, a teacher, even someone you never met but whose prayers you believe brought you this far. And if there's no one you can name, write a letter to the next generation, your future children, your spiritual sons and daughters. Speak life into them. Bless them. Name the legacy you're building. Because your words matter. Your yes matters. And your story, just like Sarah's, is about to be a bridge between what was and what can be. You are a carrier of generational hope. You're not behind, you're right on time. And what you build now will outlive you. It was a Sunday morning in Charlotte, and Sarah sat at the back of the small chapel where her grandmother, Evelyn, once worshipped. The building hadn't changed much since childhood. Worn wooden pews, sun-dappled stained glass windows, the faint scent of old hymnals still lingering in the air. But Sarah had changed, and she could feel it in her bones. This time she wasn't here out of routine. She wasn't here to recite songs or check a spiritual box. She was here because she understood something now that she couldn't comprehend before her life had become the proof. The proof that prayers spoken in secret were never in vain. The proof that time lost wasn't really lost at all. The proof that when God says, "I'll prove it to you," He means through you. She looked around the sanctuary and saw familiar faces, some aged, some unchanged. But what stood out most wasn't the people. It was what she felt deep in her spirit, a sense of culmination. Like her life had begun to sing in harmony with a much larger melody. God had been orchestrating this symphony for decades. But the greatest movement wasn't what happened around her. It was what had taken place inside her. She had gone from confusion to clarity, from striving to stillness, from loss to legacy. And not because she forced it, not because she figured everything out, but because she said yes even when her voice shook. This is what God does. He uses our ordinary, bruised, doubting, wandering selves and proves His faithfulness through us. You see, there comes a point in your journey where the shift is no longer about rescue, it's about revelation. You're not just asking God to get you out anymore. You're asking Him to show you how to live deeply within. That's where Sarah found herself. Her job with the advocacy program wasn't flashy, but it was anointed. She wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but people leaned in when she spoke. Her students didn't just learn, they transformed. Not because she had a perfect method, but because she carried a presence. The presence of someone who had wrestled with timing, disappointment, and silence, and come out with something unshakable. That's what the world needs now, not more noise, but more people who carry presence. Because that kind of presence is what proves God's faithfulness without needing a sermon. A healed life speaks louder than 1,000 declarations. A peaceful spirit disarms chaos faster than arguments ever could. A steady heart in the middle of uncertainty That's divine proof walking in human form. So let me ask you, what has God done in you that now speaks louder than your words? You may not have a stage or a spotlight, but every time you show up with compassion, you become proof. Every time you choose honesty over performance, you become proof. Every time you trust again after betrayal, dream again after disappointment, or forgive again after being wounded, you become the evidence that God still restores. There's someone watching your life right now, not for perfection, but for signs of peace. And when they see you move with grace, hold on to joy, or walk in humility, it plants a seed. You're showing them what it looks like to live loved. Don't underestimate the power of that. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes, metrics, growth, charts, social validation. But God works in movements of the heart. He measures things differently. Faithfulness, not fame. Integrity, not influence. Consistency, not clout. And what God proves through you won't always be loud. Sometimes it'll be in how you respond when no one else is looking. Sometimes it'll be in the way you stay when others walk away. Sometimes it'll be in the quiet dignity with which you carry a story the world tried to label as failure. But make no mistake, God is proving himself through you. Sarah started writing letters. One for her grandmother, thanking her for the unseen years of intercession. One for her parents, naming the small acts of sacrifice they made that shaped her. And one for herself to mark this season, not as her arrival, but as her alignment. Because when God uses your life to prove his promises, it doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you've aligned. You're finally moving with the current, not against it. You're not chasing purpose, you're living it. That's the moment when external pressure stops dictating internal peace. When timelines stop taunting you. When your worth is no longer tethered to your pace. And what's wild, that's when acceleration happens. Not the kind born of hustle, but of harmony. Things begin to open up, not because you're striving, but because you're ready. And that readiness isn't proven by confidence. It's proven by willingness, willing to trust, willing to stay open, willing to carry something eternal in a very temporal world. This is your invitation to become proof. Not by becoming perfect, but by becoming whole. By embracing your full story. By letting your wounds become wisdom. By allowing your doubts to become doorways, by stepping through every open opportunity, not with fear, but with faith. And here's the beautiful twist when your life becomes the proof others begin to rise too. Like Sarah's younger brother Marcus, he had always distanced himself from anything spiritual. Church made him uncomfortable. Prayer felt strange. But after watching Sarah quietly grow without pressure, without preaching, he started asking questions. One night he asked if she'd pray for him, just once. Not because I believe, he said, but because you do, and I believe in you. That's it. That's legacy. That's influence. That's God saying, I'm about to prove it to you through them. So wherever you are right now, however messy or miraculous your story feels, know this. If you keep listening, keep aligning, and keep showing up, you're becoming the answer to someone else's long-forgotten prayer. And your life, it will prove God's faithfulness, not just for you, but for every heart watching from the shadows wondering if it's still possible. It is. You are the proof. You always have been. What part of your story is starting to become proof of God's faithfulness? A healed relationship or family breakthrough. B, a new purpose rising from an old disappointment. Type A or B in the comments. Let your testimony begin here. Someone else's hope might be waiting for your story. Before you go, I want you to pause right where you are. Take a deep breath. Let it settle. Because if you've made it this far, it's not by accident. This wasn't just a message, it was a moment, a divine whisper straight to your spirit. Maybe something in you awakened again. Maybe tears rose where you thought you'd already healed. Maybe hope stirred where it had long been buried. Whatever it was, don't let it pass quietly. You are not just a listener, you're a carrier, a voice, a spark. So if this message spoke to you, share it. Not as content, but as a calling. Someone out there is standing at the edge of their next chapter, waiting for the very reminder you now hold. Be the one who passes it on. And before you close this video, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments, tell me what moment hit you the hardest. Your words may become someone else's confirmation. This is more than a video. It's a movement of hearts remembering that they are seen, chosen, and right on time. So don't just scroll away. Respond, reflect, reach out. Because the story God is writing through you, it's only just beginning.